the city have any idea to this date what the impact on the economy is from?
Well, I think in terms of the overall impact to the economy, I think it's safe to say that whether you're looking at the municipal level, the provincial level, or the federal level, it is going to be significant. We're already seeing those impacts as businesses make a decision to close, brought about by COVID-19 response protocols. It definitely is tough for small business and others out there, and it is going to be significant.
Are small business reaching out to the city government at all?
Yes, they are. And while the impact is going to be significant or shaping up to be significant, I think more importantly, we need to focus our efforts on what we can do to minimize that negative impact. And certainly that is where the focus of the city has been, and certainly through myself and my colleagues in the Economic Development Office, it's been around finding ways to mitigate or at least minimize the impact where possible. So what does that look like? That looks like as soon as the pandemic began to unfold, rejigging how we're doing our own business. So at City Hall, that meant Emergency Operations Center being initiated. It meant looking at our fundamental business areas and looking at where support and relief was going to have to be focused. So as the city set about to create a number of working groups to manage all the various issues that were arising as we got into the pandemic. One of the first working groups that we organized was one called the Business and Local Economy Working Group, led by myself, but supported by a number of my colleagues from different departments, and also with the involvement of significant business stakeholders in the city. So on that working group, we have the Chamber of Commerce, we have the New Westminster Downtown Business Improvement Association, we have the Uptown Business Improvement Association, Tourism New Westminster, as well as a couple of nonprofits, the Massey Theatre Society, the Arts, and the Arts Council. So we organized our work immediately to deal with some of the impacts of COVID around that working group, and there's been a number of things that we've been doing, again, to mitigate and minimize as much as possible that impact on the economy.
So some examples of what you've been doing?
Sure. So a number of things. We created immediately on the homepage of the website a button, COVID-19 Business Resources. And since this all began, what we have done is on a daily basis, and sometimes at the front end of this on an hourly basis, we were updating available resources for businesses to seek relief. So that would be federal and provincial programs. We began lobbying senior levels of government to look at immediate ways of providing relief. Some of that has come forward from the federal government through wage subsidies. We have talked to the province as well as other municipalities about what to do in terms of property tax bills and that sort of thing. In our own municipality, City New Westminster, as you know, has its own electric utility, and we immediately set out providing some bill relief, which has been updated this week, and as a matter of fact, just today, with additional relief for New Westminster electrical customers, a 1% reduction on their electrical bill for the remainder of the year, and an opportunity for both residents and businesses to apply for up to 3 months of relief on their electrical bills. So. Really, what all that is about, Susan, is helping in the business community, helping with cash flow. Getting back to that working group, one of the first things that very first meeting that we had with our working group, all done with social distancing and through conference call, our stakeholders told us immediately that the big problem is cash flow. Bills are coming in, wages need to be paid, so whatever governments can do to free up cash helps businesses, and so that's where our focus has been. So I talked a little bit about the Business and Local Economy Working Group. A number of initiatives have flowed out from that. So we have our COVID-19 business resource page. We also have looked at and have launched a Support Local campaign for our businesses, and what that is a concerted campaign, even throughout the COVID crisis, there are ways that people can support their business community. And so we're pushing that out there through our Support Local campaign. We've been doing research in other municipalities in terms of to see if there's anything that we are offering or doing or not doing that we should be doing. So we continue to do that on a regular basis. We are doing research to and outreach to impacted businesses. This morning we began a program with redeployed city staff that are no longer working in their normal functions, have been brought onto a team and are calling all business license holders in the city to check up on them. How are you doing? What's the state of your business? What do you need? And in many cases, it's just a friendly check-in, but we're getting great results and responses from business owners that we're just happy to hear that somebody's thinking about them at this time. Mm-hmm. We also need to look at moving forward, and soon, I think, what it's going to look like in terms of coming out of this. When we are told by the provincial health officer and the authorities that we no longer need to practice the same sort of robust social distancing, we can start getting back to a sense of normal. And at this point in the COVID-19 pandemic, who knows what that's going to look like. But once we do start to move to a post-COVID world, we really need to start thinking about what does that look like in terms of business operations, not only how we as a city, as an organization, but how do other businesses sort of get back to norm? And I think that may take a little bit longer, only because I don't think this is like COVID-19 is not like a light switch that you can switch on and off and everything be fine and dandy tomorrow. You've got to go through our process.
What is some of the thinking about what it's going to look like?
I think it's still too early to tell. I wouldn't be able to venture what it's going to look like. And right now, we know that we've been told that the social distancing is going to continue through the month of April. And I've also heard, I think it was the Prime Minister that mentioned today that we should also be thinking about it into the end of May. Certainly from the city's perspective, we've canceled any events that we had up until May 31st. And yesterday, as part of the cancellation of the BC Super Week bike race series, we canceled our new Westminster Grand Prix in July. So it's hard to say what it's going to look like when normal returns, but one thing's for sure, that much like the success that we're having at the provincial level in managing COVID-19 in BC, due to the fact that people have really done this together and stuck together and followed by and large, followed the protocols as dictated by the experts. If we continue to do that, the way back to normal may be a little bit not as difficult, not as difficult a road to get down.
Now, are there some sectors of these the New West business community that are more vulnerable than other sectors?
Yes, and again, we became aware of how much it was impacted as the COVID-19 pandemic unfolded. So initially, it looked like restaurants and food service businesses, because they're having to retool. They can't serve many people in close proximity. And then it became personal service businesses. So it's been challenging. I've learned a lot about business continuity in a pandemic, and how challenging it can be for some businesses that just aren't able to guarantee and social distancing necessary to stop the spread of COVID.
Now, aside from the federal help, can this? I know that the city's helped in terms of electrical. You mentioned. Yeah. Can it help in terms of property tax or? That's something that we've been talking to the provincial government about. Cities and municipalities in Canada are creatures of the provincial government. We're actually enabled. The city of New Westminster is enabled, like other cities, by the Local Government Act. So anything that would happen vis-a-vis property taxes would have to be done first in concert with provincial approvals, and they're still looking at what that might look like. Right. And what about rental? Can you put pressure on landlords about rental, or? Again, pressure on landlords is challenging because a contract that you have with your landlord, if you're a business tenant, is a contract and it's not something the city can get involved in. That said, what we have been saying right from the outset is we encourage business tenants and business landlords to really work together. This is absolutely an unprecedented time in our history. We want businesses to be here. And at the heart of our business community to still be beating at the end of this. So we ask both landlords and tenants to work together to try to come up with a solution that is mutually beneficial and that also will end up benefiting the whole community.
Now, is New West particularly vulnerable in comparison to other cities in that it has quite just looking around, it seems to have a lot of small businesses in comparison to other places?
Yeah, I don't know if our ratio of small business is vastly out measures another municipality, but small businesses are the heart of the economy anywhere you look at in this country, and they tend to be the most vulnerable. And certainly are proving to be the most vulnerable as we go through a pandemic like we're going through. So it's incumbent upon businesses, upon government, as well as citizens in these communities to do what they can to support those small businesses. So going back to our Support Local campaign that we put together with our stakeholders, we had initially come right out of the gate with a Shop Local campaign, which as soon as we started to dissect it, we thought, well, that's running contrary, or will end up running contrary within days of what we're starting to hear from the provincial health officer. And this was being done in early March. So we switched that to Support Local. And of course, there's many ways that you can support a local business, even if you can't go to the bricks and mortar shop. You can buy a gift certificate for a future service. You can write a great review for them online. There's lots of different things you can do.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's fantastic. And do you have some of these suggestions on if you go to the New West City website? Are there a lot of these suggestions?
Absolutely. It's all part of our social. If you go onto the City New Westminster website and click on Support Local under our business resources, and you'll see all of those tips. And frankly, our tips are not that original. They're being shared in cities and communities across North America. There's just lots of things that you can still do, even though if you can't go to your favorite business. And we encourage people to do that. We also encourage people to sign up for our Invest New West newsletter, which is a regular newsletter we put out. We've retooled it to focus almost exclusively on COVID-19 pandemic response items. So that's a really effective resource for local businesses to stay in touch. We also have launched a website where businesses can populate their profile and tell the community whether they're open, whether they're closed, whether they've changed some of their business model. There was a restaurant that I love in uptown New Westminster that had been closed the first couple of weeks of this pandemic. I was concerned for them, and it was concerned about what was happening behind a closed door. And you without being able to speak to them, you don't really know what's happening. The other day I went by and they had reopened, offering their menu items in takeaway in containers, so you could prepare the delicious meal at home. What I think we were seeing was the first couple of weeks, people trying to figure out what's happening. Are these protocols and social distancing not recommendations, but orders, is this going to go away? I mean, we haven't been in this place before. And I think after a couple of weeks, you had businesses start to think, okay, this is going to go on for a while. We got to rethink how, or not necessarily our entire business model, but how we get through this so that we can still have an income come in. And you're seeing some of these businesses that were closed the first couple of weeks, you're now seeing open in a different way. And it's wonderful to see, and just to make that connection again, because it's yet another way that people can support local.
And I would imagine a few businesses are also coming together as a group if they have sort of related products, are they?
I haven't heard of a lot of that, but
yeah.
Certainly this is, and it's times like these when you really see what human nature is all about. for all of the craziness that you can see, and we've seen some of this stuff, people not following social distancing and just people just generally being jerks, you're also seeing way more creative and original solutions, a lot of community support. You're seeing the community respond in a positive way to something that is unprecedented, that we've never dealt with before. So what does that look like at the business level? You do see business owners communicating with each other, and we encourage that as well. Wonderful thing about entrepreneurs is they tend to think differently than the rest of us. They tend to see opportunity where you and I may not see it, or just maybe blind to it. And they tend to think outside the box. And the things that we may consider crazy and not be brave enough to take the first step, they're already 4 or 5 steps down the road. And that's where success comes from. So this is where the originality and the creativity of entrepreneurs really gets to shine during a crisis like this.
So just to sum up here, people should go to the New West City website?
Yes, so if you go to newwestcity.ca, that's our corporate website. And if you're not looking for business information, we have all COVID-related protocols, community closures, everything on there. So it's a really great repository for all things related to COVID in New Westminster. We're also encouraging people to put a profile of their business at investnewwest.ca, which is our listing, our active listing of businesses that have adjusted during COVID. We are working right now with New Westminster Police, as well as other city staff, to develop a commercial area safety and security plan, which really is, in for lack of a better term, eyes on the street. How do we increase at times of social distancing, especially into the darker hours? How do we increase eyes on the street and make sure we still have a presence there, so that people who might be out and about planning nefarious activities can see that there's still people that are watching and people that care about their business community and will be there to keep an eye on things. And then again, and then as well, those business outreach calls that I talked about earlier, that's really important for us to learn where people are at in terms of specific businesses, whether they're open or closed, but also for somebody in the business community who may be feeling pretty alone right now, to have a contact with somebody from the city offering support and directing them to these resources. Again, sticking together, following the protocols, following the orders of the provincial health officer, we'll get through this. Great.
And there's also a shop local button.
Support local. If you take it on the website, you will see the support local button. You'll also see a lot of we've been really putting together a concerted campaign. You're going to see social media posts attached to that campaign, as well as some print stuff in our local media. But again, it's really a rallying cry for everybody to get out and do what you can to support the local business community. We want to make sure that they're strong. And rise out of the other side of this in a great way. But it is tough, and times are tough, and that's why they need your support.
Yeah.
But again, I encourage anybody, any business person in the community who wants to stay in touch, to sign up for that newsletter and go to the website to take a look at those resources around what relief is available.
Okay, and I'm going to go and buy some gift cards right now.
Please do.
Okay.
Thank you, Susan.
Thanks so much, Blair. Bye-bye.